Let's go ahead and get going then. Time clock is ticking.
All right. The first item is to discuss or review the reopening plan. I know that the board has seen it in many different versions. I know you're aware of it. Do you have any ideas, any concerns, anything at all before we hopefully will approve it on the Tuesday, February 9th board meeting? Any questions, any comments? I can tell you right now that the entire system is geared up to make this an extremely successful opening on February 22nd. We were working hard, but we've been working extremely hard the last couple of weeks to make sure, and we're still working to make sure that we have the support in place so that we're going to have a very successful opening on February 22nd. If we compare it to the bond where we said we were going to be on time and on budget and that we were going to have a smooth opening, and that happened. And that's the same position we're taking on February 22nd. So do you have any questions? Kelly, can you screenshot the plan?
Sure, Katie, can you? Thank you. Do you want me to just do a brief overview, Sally, or?
That would be good. That would be good.
Maybe just a brief one.
Okay.
Got about 2 or 3 minutes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Kelly, can you scroll down? Yes. Can you scroll down for me? Sorry, I'm talking and I was muted. Can you scroll down, Katie? There we go. So this basically just outlines for everybody the same things that we've been talking about since September. We're coming back in a blended model with A families being on Monday and Tuesday in person and Wednesday through Friday online. And then if you're a B family, you're Monday through Wednesday online and Thursday and Friday in person. The next set down there is just our basics on how we're going to protect everybody. The kids have to be immunized with your basic childhood shots. We're going to have kids arrive at school with their attestations either filled out or done on the computer. And they're going to be screened in with taking their temperatures and checking those attestations. Of course, we've gone through the whole thing about wearing the masks from the time that you get to the bus all through the day until you get home. We're also maintaining that 6 feet distance. And then we'll make sure that we clean if the kids move rooms. Now in the elementary, they won't be doing that. But at the middle school, junior high, high school, if they change rooms, the desks will be wiped down in between. And then again, kids won't be sharing supplies. But we are also offering some supplies for kids because this is such an awkward time of the year to try to get all those things. Can you scroll, Katie? So the next setup, and there might have been a couple of changes to the one that you got in the packet here because this is a working document. But the first chart up there kind of shows you what it looks like currently with all the small groups going on. And on the 22nd, we have PK through 1, grade 5 and grade 7. And then on the 15th, everybody will be back. If you look underneath that, this kind of lays it out by grade level, and it lets you know the return date, the certificated staff's hours at the schools, the student hours, and then what the asynchronous time looks like. The one difference that I want everybody to be aware of between K-8 and then the high schools is at high school, they'll be live streaming. So the kids will be at home and they will actually be virtually seeing what's going on in the classroom as far as the instruction goes. So they'll have that live streaming all week long, whether they're in person or they're at home, they get that live lesson. And the teachers will be recording it so they can watch it later. But we're really going to emphasize showing up for that live lesson. And elementary K through 8 is back on the standard model that we've discussed so many times where they will be in person for those 2 days. And then asynchronously at home. And we're working on trying to get some support so that parents have somewhere to call or to contact if they hit any rocky roads there. Can you scroll up, Katie? So if we just do kind of a day at a glance for hybrid, the kids come in, they're screened, they grab their lunches, their breakfast, and they go off to either the classroom or the cafeteria, the commons, wherever it is that they're having their breakfast. The day progresses, they'll have lunch and recess, and then they'll be leaving school 60 minutes earlier than we normally do. They'll go home and continue that asynchronous learning. We have some really cool programs that come with K-12 called Stride. So most of them will have assignments in through Stride. And then Wednesdays are the asynchronous days for everyone. And we're hoping that teachers don't show up at the building either that day so we can get the deep cleaning done. OBJ, OMS, and Choice, they're run very similarly to that. Can you scroll up, Katie? Thank you. Cedar will also be doing this streaming along with the high school. They are released at different times. Cedar is at 1:10 and Choice High School is at 11:50. They will be doing a block schedule with that. So that's our hybrid. And then we go on down to the 100% instruction online. Preschool's hours are in the morning. Katie, can you scroll for me? Thank you. And then you can see where it's K-8, it has the school hours. The live sessions are expected, but again, we will record them if they need to. And then Wednesdays will be the days for early release instead of Fridays. Our normal PLC every other Friday thing will move to Wednesdays so that we're not shortchanging any group. And those schedules for those days will vary based on whether it's a PLC day or not. And then the high school, again, Shelton High School and Choice, they'll have that live stream in. Can you scroll up for me, Katie, or down? There we go. And Choice is the only one that's completely different with the asynchronous. They have individual learning plans, and so they may have 2 hours of asynchronous twice a week, or they may have 5 hours asynchronous 3 times a week. It's all based on their individual plan. And that is as fast as I can do it.
Now, I should let the board know that, and I just heard this today when we had a short meeting with some of the cabinet members, that the governor has indicated that they would like to see all schools start in a hybrid fashion by March 1. So and if somebody heard that, maybe you can help me here. Was that a directive, or was that a recommendation, or was it a suggestion? I didn't have the opportunity to listen to it, but I'm sure I can find it. But did any of the board hear that statement? Okay. We probably need to look into that a little more. It's not that we couldn't start earlier, but our schedule in terms of everything is geared to March 15th. But let me look into that, and maybe you can look into it too, and we can discuss it. But that came out of right field. And we're all used to it, that things change rather rapidly. But we can adapt to change. We can adapt to anything. But if we have a choice, my recommendation is we stay on schedule for March 15th, because that's when teachers are expecting to come back. And Chelsea, you're right in the thick of things. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I would agree with what you just shared. I mean, we have very specific timelines for training and planning and setup. And so I think it would make sense that as long as it's not a directive, we stay on that schedule.
Okay. Mary Ann, your thoughts, please. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. This is the first time I've done it via my phone. So I agree with Chelsea. We're right on schedule to start and we're ready to go. Like you said, though, if we had to start March 1st, we could. But I think that we're in a safe place with just 2 weeks later. We're ready to go.
Yeah, it just depends what the board finds out, and I'd like some direction from the board on that at some point so that we can prepare one way or the other. But we're preparing for March 15th, but if we believe that we need to start on March 1, I'm not sure what the reaction would be from teachers and classified staff in relation to our plan. I don't want to upset the apple cart. That's the last thing we want to do. But if the board would be willing to take a look at what the governor said and we can talk about it, that would be great.
I'm Googling it. I'm not seeing anything. You're saying that that was an announcement that was made today?
Well, who was telling me about that just a few minutes ago? Really?
It was me. I heard about it on the radio just as I was going into our 4 o'clock meeting, and there were 2 clips to play. One was from the governor, one was from Chris Reichdahl, and I don't remember which one it was that made the statement, but they said that, and it was kind of like a firm, request is how I interpreted it. It was that, we're looking to have all students back by the end of the month in a hybrid model.
Well,
I heard it too. It was just a regurgitation of what had happened earlier when they had said what they would like to see. It didn't come out as a directive or anything like that. But I know you didn't ask me my opinion, but I wanted to share it. I think it might be a little difficult for the high school students. That's 2 weeks before the change of the trimester, and they are just finishing everything up. And to get them coming back and then switch everything in 2 weeks, I think would be a little bit of a hardship on them.
if we would have known this 2 weeks ago, a month ago, it would have been easy. But anyway, we'll need to discuss it, and once we get more information.
I will say that I did listen to the school board state call like I typically do on Thursdays, and they were bringing up different legislation, not about going back to school on specific dates, but about funding for the enrollment as well as
Right.
transportation. They also were talking very strongly about the potential of school beginning in the summer or extending the school year or something like that because of learning loss that they feel like cannot be recouped other than in person. So that was an interesting conversation that sounds like it's just beginning.
Sure.
There was no set anything with that as well too, but I'm expecting more to be coming out of that. There were senators on the call that were requesting feedback and information on some of those things.
Great. Okay, any other questions? Sally B., welcome. Anything else on the reviewing of the reopening plan?
I have a question, Alex, and maybe this is for Kelly. I'm totally on board with the timeline of the plan and the hybrid model, but my concern is still that students are going to actually lose time with their teachers, not gain it, because they'll have, the 2 days where they're online and not interacting with their teacher because their teacher is teaching other students. So I had talked to a parent who has a child at Southside, and they end their classes earlier and then finish the day online with everyone. And I didn't know whether that was something we had considered that would allow, so even the Monday, Tuesday students on Thursday, Friday would be able to interact with the teacher in the afternoon versus not having any contact.
I think, Lynn, we did look at something like that. And part of our issue with that is running all the different bus routes that we run for secondary, preschool, elementary, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I understand because they're a much smaller school district than we are, obviously, but.
Yes. One of the things, though, and this doesn't answer that question for all grades, but for secondary, with the streaming of the lessons, that negates that problem, because they'll have that live lesson every day and they can do some interaction with that. At OBJ, they have come up with a brand new idea that they're going to try to work out where the kids get more interaction on that Wednesday. So that's another helpful thing. When you get into the lower grades, it becomes, obviously more difficult with what the kids can manage on their own and whatnot. But we truly are trying to come up with creative ideas. And I think as we move along and we see what people we have and what people we don't have, I think that we can come up with some creative ideas where they can at least reach their teacher or a teacher, have some sort of contact.
And yeah, I agree with that, Kelly. And once we get started, there's going to be ways that we might have to finesse the system to make it more appropriate in terms of teaching and learning. But to start off with, this is the plan, but that doesn't mean that the plan will be the plan for the entire session. So thank you for bringing that up, Lynn. Anything else from anyone?
I had a couple of questions, if I could.
Sure.
With the live lessons being available till 11:59, how are students able to make up a sick day? Is there a library they can go in and collect those lessons later? Or what happens after that midnight hour?
Yeah, they're still available. That's a really good question, Sandy. They're still available. It's just that for the attendance for that day, if you log in before 11:59, which has been our standard this whole time. But if it's a sick leave day and if it's a sick day and goodness gracious, they still have access to that. And they also have access to the work that they would have had. That is one benefit of this, in face-to-face, we don't record our lessons. So yeah, we'll be able to do it that way.
Chelsea, anything else you want to add to that? Mary Ann?
I would just add that I think, it was mentioned earlier that we're all within our buildings trying to come up with plans for how to support those students on asynchronous days. And I know that's what our teachers want. I just had a teacher come in to me after school with another idea. So I think we're just trying to get them in the door and, get going and then start refining. A lot like we did with remote learning, we had a plan to start and then people kept making it better and teachers were coming up with creative ways, again, to improve it. So I see us doing the same thing with hybrid. I think everybody's goal is to make sure that students have connection points on asynchronous days and that there are ways for them to get support. So I think we'll tackle it in the same fashion where we get started and then build upon that.
Sandy, do you had another question?
Just a couple of other points and a question, and just to reemphasize that the health precautions that are in place, to specify about students have to be up to date on their immunizations. And, hopefully parents are clear on that is just the traditional immunizations. That's not addressing any COVID vaccines, correct?
They clarify that, Sandy, in the emails that they're sent out. Since I am a parent, I get those, and they've sent out emails that specifically say this does not have to do with the COVID vaccination, and it is the standard vaccinations.
And we know there'll always be people that say, well, I didn't hear that.
That's right.
Of course.
No question about it.
And I think one of, my concerns was in the opening, not being too aggressive, too ambitious with trying to open up the entire school on one day, avoid delays, huge lines, time delays. And so I think this is a good plan. You've got, a grade at every building, grade at middle school and a grade at the junior high and the smaller grades at the elementary. So I think that's very good. And I'll end with just a question. Where is our, how do our numbers of teachers that have applied and been granted the ability to work online rather than in the classroom? Is that number holding steady? Is it still rising? Is it declining?
Very good question. Terry, you want to respond to that? We talked about that earlier today. You're mute.
My apology. Yeah, we did talk about it earlier today. We're in pretty good shape on, thanks to the principals. They put together really great plans in terms of using the staff that they have. So most of the applications came in, have been processed. Principals know about them, department chairs know about them, and those have been taken into consideration, with the exception, Sandy, of we've had, recently, we have had quite a few come in from the high school, and that is concerning. So I met with Bruce today and others. Mary Ann's been working on, we've all been working as a team, but K-8, we're in very good shape. And it seems like, Sandy, it's kind of stopped or really slowed down, and people are feeling more reassured. They know their assignment, they know their team, and great shape. High school, there was a rising anxiety. Bruce has put in a number of things. He's put in a weekly meeting to talk about assignments in the school. He's invited people to come in and meet with him, the custodian and staff, to look at the building or look at their room. He has met individually with teachers. So he's done a number of things, but we still have some work to do there. In terms of the staffing overall in CERT, we're in good shape. High school, we have some questions. Classified, we're in good shape. We're working on paras now, which is kind of our last group, and we anticipate that that information on the paras will go out this next week, with bringing some paras back, and we're adding some time with some para positions because of the before and after school. So overall staffing, we're good. High school, we still have some work to be done.
Okay. And last Saturday's vaccinations, people were able to, those that wanted them were able to get them on Saturday. It seems like that was a, seemed like they were calling that a success. So I'm hopeful that teachers,
Right.
staff members that wanted it were able to get their vaccine dose.
No, not on Saturday, Sandy. That was a health department coordinated vaccine event for age 65 and up, or people in stage 1A or 1B.
Okay.
1B1.
Yeah, that did not include teaching staff at this time. And it was successful. They had close to 700 people get vaccinated. And Mason Health is continuing through their own doctor's offices to, as they get doses, vaccinate that group so that we can move on then to the next group.
Yeah, I called Sally B to help me out, maybe to make contact with the Squaxin tribe to see if they had any extra vaccines. And Sally indicated I should call Chris Peters, which I've made contact with today. And he's been very positive. He said, we've got vaccines for our people on the reservation. We're still working to vaccinate as many people as possible in relation to our employees and so on. But he said, maybe in a month or a month and a half, they might be able to help us. And he said, we would be a priority. And he said, just let me know how many vaccinations, you might need. And so I talked with Robert yesterday, and Robert said, 400 would be a number that we should shoot for. And so I left Chris Peters that figure today. So, he couldn't promise, but he did say that we would be a priority, basically a priority one, if in fact they had enough vaccines. And he said that in a month or a month and a half, they may know something. So I don't know, Sally, if you know any additional information regarding that issue.
We may have just lost her. She's logged in under two different accounts.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
looks like
Yes.
Robert's got a comment.
I just wanted to let you know where that 400 number came from, is that Mason General Hospital shared with me that their uptake with their staff is 50%. So I targeted about 50% rate for our staff too, that would be willing to take the vaccine.
So that would be nice if that could happen. Of course, there's a lot of development going on in terms of the vaccine, different vaccines coming out, booster shots, a a lot of different things happening in relation to vaccination. So we'll keep an eye on it and go from there. Sally B, did you hear anything that I said by chance? Sally?
No,
Okay. Thanks
it's
to
just,
you.
it's been cutting in and out, and I just,
Can you hear me now? Well, too bad. Well, I'll have to call Sally and talk to her about it. All right. Anything more on the reopening plan? Okay. May I keep going, Sally? Okay. Mary Ann, Kelly, Chelsea, Terry, you're excused. And Robert and Brenda, you'll stay on along with Katie, because I need those three people to help with our discussion on the next couple items.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you.
everyone.
Have
Have
a
a
good
good
evening.
evening.
Thank you. Well, the next item is the basketball court. And I've sent the letter, a couple of different letters to each one of you to review. Joe is pretty anxious for a decision. And I mentioned to him that, you know, Joe, is as much as we might want to do this, we've got to go through a process. But here's what he said to me. He said, can the board just make a decision, nay or yay? Well, I said, I have a meeting on Thursday with the board. And I said, I'll do my best. We'll have a conversation and I'll let you know what's happening. Now, Katie, do you want to maybe brief the board on where the naming committee, the Hall of Fame committee is on this issue?
Sure. So we received the results back from the survey pre-COVID, and the committee decided to wait because they were unsure of an answer and come back to it. And then COVID hit, and we decided to table the issue until we were on better grounds with what's going on in the schools. So right now it is just on hold.
With the committee.
Yes, no decision's been made.
So I'm not sure where the board is on this one, but your position would weigh heavily, I believe, with the committee. Am I correct, Katie?
Correct.
So I don't know what you might want to do.
So Alex, I know you know where I stand on the issue, and I'm in favor of naming the basketball court after Coach Greg. And just growing up here, knowing lots of people who played for him and lots of people in the community who can't think of another coach more deserving than to name it after than Coach Greg. So that I'm very much in favor of that. And I understand, you know, some of the concerns that have come up and sympathetic with that. But we did name our football stadium after Coach Stark. And I think, we should think about this moving forward, but I'm still in favor of naming the basketball court.
Thank you, Lynn.
I am still in favor of it myself. I agree. And my husband has experience with Coach Greg, and all of those testimonials that come through are always speaking exactly to what I hear from so many people in this community. And my thought has always been, these are things that are going to evolve and change over time. So this is an honor for Coach Greg, and that does not mean that stays that way in forever. It means that when there comes another time, years down the road, when somebody's risen to that level, that you wouldn't rename that. So it seems very appropriate to me, as have some of the other suggestions that are in there. So I am there. I was okay with pausing, especially while we were dealing with COVID, but I am in favor of it as well.
Thank you, Carrie. Would anybody else like to speak to the issue?
I can go, and I also would support the idea of naming the basketball court for the coach. I agree with a lot of the comments made by Carrie and by Lynn and other board members and a lot of the community. I support the idea and would be in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
So Sally B, Alex was, he has sent us a few letters about the possibility of looking at naming the court and the mini dome, the basketball court, after Terry Gregg. And so we're just sort of revisiting that idea at this point, sort of seeing where we're at as a board, since, you know, it's been, I don't know, it's probably been 18 months or so since we last talked about it. Like you said earlier, time is not making a lot of sense at the moment. So we're just sort of taking a temperature of where everybody's at on that particular issue at the moment. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, not to put you on the spot just as you're getting back in, but.
I don't really have any stance on it. I mean, I know there's a lot of support for it in the community. Yeah, it's been so long. I don't remember. Did this go to the committee that we set up for that? And did a recommendation come back, or did we set up that that protocol?
Yeah, we did. And Katie, can you talk a little bit about the protocol and the work with the committee?
Yes, so we worked with the committee to create a protocol, and with the committee, we developed the survey that we sent out to the community. That was back before COVID. I can't remember off the top of my head when that was. Results came back and the committee met and discussed, and the committee was didn't lean one way or another at that time. And then COVID hit shortly after, and we decided to put a halt on things at that time. And we have not discussed it since.
And at that time, I recall mentioning, because they asked, they said, well, where does the board stand? And at that time, we were so busy frantically trying to deal with COVID that we tabled it also. But like I said earlier, any position from the school board, I believe, would weigh heavily with the committee.
So just to clarify then, at this point, we're not taking any action, of course, but at this point, it would need to then go back to the committee, who would then make a recommendation. It would come back to the board then for formal action at that point.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
Right. So I don't know, Sally, if you want to comment or.
Yeah, my biggest hesitation when we were originally looking at it is we had just named the football field after Coach Stark, and I felt like we needed to give enough time for that honor to be recognized, and I think we have. And Terry Gregg is a wonderful person. I learned how to play basketball from him, as did many students at Shelton School District. You know, fourth grader in my two big basketball shoes, running up and down the court there at the mini dome when he was, you know, holding clinics for elementary school kids to learn to play the game. And it was more than just learning to play the game. It was about sportsmanship, and it was about confidence, and it was about respecting the other players. Those were all parts of the message that he made central in when he taught basketball. So it was a lot of life lessons as well. So yeah, I would be in favor of naming the court after Coach Gregg.
Okay, if it's okay with the board, Katie and I can take that back to the committee, and well, at least let them know where you stand at this point in time. And if they want to go the next step, they would have to come back to the school board. Is that correct, Katie?
Yes, that's correct. That's what we put in that's what our protocol.
Yeah,
So,
the bylaws, right?
yeah.
Policy. Okay, well, I'd like to thank the board for your comments, and when's our next meeting, Katie?
Our next one is scheduled for March 10th, and I will put it on the agenda.
Okay, very good. And if you have any comments beyond today, just maybe email me and we can go from there. Okay, thank you very much, Katie. You're excused.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Our next issue is affordable housing, and I sent each board member a letter about the 400 houses that affordable homes that they want to build in Shelton. And Robert has been closer to this than I have. I have not been really consulted on this other than my conversation with Jim Morrell. And Jim did a very nice job explaining the situation. But other than that, we as a superintendent and board have not had anybody come to us to present this issue. And Robert, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've been I was kind of surprised after I made the report in the early January meeting that I would become kind of a figurehead to the community, at least from the school district's perspective. I've received, I don't know, maybe 10 phone calls and 20 people approaching me, whether in the school or in church or, Fred Meyer wanting to discuss the issue. And it's been largely negative. And I think that, so there's certainly, there's a lot of risk if the school board takes a position on this. I would say that everyone liked to describe it when they were talking to me that they support our levies and support the school district. And so I think people are kind of interested in to see, what this, if the district takes a position. And so based on that, I was just surprised by the feedback I received. So,
I was thinking, I know the board's schedule is very tight as well as mine, but I think we need more information on the subject. And, I was thinking, well, maybe on February 11th, we could invite the city manager to comment on the project and just give us some general information. That might be worthwhile for the entire community and for us. But I will do what the board wants me to do on that. But I personally think we need more information before we can really make a decision one way or the other. And maybe not making a decision is our decision.
Sandy, could you share what you shared with me last night about the information from the chamber?
Correct. I don't have, I saw a little release a statement that they released, and I don't have it in front of me, but in essence, it was saying that, they support the concept of workforce housing, as many chambers do, but that, there's still a lot more information that needs to be learned about this particular project. There's still a lot of contradictory information going around out there, and that they encourage everybody to continue researching and learning and asking questions and just learning more about the entire project. And I think that's a good question. I'm not comfortable myself with making a position, trying to take a position yet with so many unknowns.
Yeah, I would agree, Sandy, that we need more information before the board, the school district could decide one way or the other or not make a decision at all on the issue. So what I could do with direction from the board, I can reach out, or Robert and I can both reach out to Jeff Nitton, the city manager, and indicate to him that we would need more information on the issue. Is that
was
fair?
it this? I'm sorry. Was it the city asking for support?
Well, it was Kyle Kronk sent me the letter from the YMCA.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if he and Jim Morrell are involved in anything along the lines of dealing with the 400 homes. But that's who sent me the letter, is Kyle Cronk.
I do know that Jim Morrell and myself and several others are part of the YMCA advisory board. So they may just be, whether it's coming from Jim and Kyle, that could just be from the stance of the YMCA. But I have had community members not ask me as a board member if I have a stance on it, but they're confused about how quickly this has come about. And they've talked about other developments in the past that have been talked about that have also included plans for, schools. And this one does not seem to have that, or I'm not comfortable having any stance on this until I have much more information. And I don't have much information other than I'm very grateful for Robert bringing in what he did do. But obviously, there's still a lot of details we don't know or that are just unknown at this time.
Well, with your direction, we can pursue Jeff Nitton or maybe Jim Morrell or both to maybe come to an open forum and expound on what's happening. That would probably be extremely beneficial, not only for us as a school system, but for the entire community. So if with your direction, Robert and I can reach out and see if we can get them to even come at the next open forum on the 11th or on the 25th of February. If you feel that's okay, we can try to make that happen.
I would vote for the 25th because I think the 11th will be, parents will especially, and community members are going to really want to know about the reopening of school. And I think the whole hour and a half will probably be taken up with that. So that maybe the 25th at the earliest.
Yeah.
I was going to agree. I don't know that our open forums is the right platform for city business. I think if people want to know, the city's had enough meetings that they can attend and find out information directly from them. But I do think having them, maybe inviting them to a board meeting and give a presentation, but the open forum, which is really for our community to learn about what's going on with the schools, doesn't feel like the right,
I'm
concerned it will give the message that the school district has jumped in to support this. And I don't think that we're at a place to do that.
You're right on that.
And I'm even concerned about inviting, all we can say is we have hit and miss information and rumors. And do you want to come to our meeting and clarify? I don't know that that's our place.
Yeah, you've got a point there.
They have not approached us.
No.
And so I'm concerned that if we take a leadership role in reaching out, that it will be perceived that we totally support this.
It's a good point.
Second thoughts on this? I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with Lynn too. Maybe what we can do, well, let's do this. Let's Robert and I touch base with Jeff Nitton and see where they're at. And we'll explain to them that we really can't make any kind of decision on this issue with the information that we have currently. We just can't. So is that where we are on that one? We need information and we need to figure out which format is best. But I agree that the open forum might not be the right way to go.
Diedrich is making some information available in the chat if somebody would like to relay that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Developer made a presentation to Shelton City Council Tuesday night. Video available on masonwebtv.com. Starts about 33 minutes in. Next meeting on the development before the council will be March 16th. So thank you, Diedrich. That's helpful because I think that puts us in a position to just wait.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. If they have something they would like from us, then they can approach us about it.
I agree. Let's just see how this thing flows out. And Brenda, do you have any comments at all at this time?
Not at all. I actually, that was a good point bringing it up, that it really probably isn't our place to bring it forward. So I like that. So
Thank you. Thank you, school board. You've led us in the right direction. Robert, anything else?
Nope, I just want to make it clear to the community that's listening right now that I do not have an official stance and I yield completely to the school board for a decision on what they support.
Thank you, Robert.
You bet.
Thank you. Anything more on that one? Okay. Now we go to, and Robert and Brenda, you're excused.
well, I'm now your host. So
Oh,
because
you're going to stay then.
let Bob go home for the evening.
No.
Thank
So
you,
I'll
everyone.
just hang out.
Thank you, Robert.
You
You're
bet.
home free.
Good night, Robert.
I would like, in terms of transition for the 21-22 school year, I would like to make the following recommendation. That on Thursday, March 11th, I present to you potential budget models regarding revenue and expenditures and suggestions for organizational structure for your consideration regarding the 21-22 school year. And they would only be suggestions, and that would be it. And then the board would make the ultimate decision. We can do a little of this, but not this, or we like this. But that would just give, it would be our first step in terms of organizational review and budget and program. And I wanted to do it sooner, but I wanted to get school started on the 22nd and get that taken care of. And then we go into our planning for 21-22. We've already asked our principals, cabinet members to submit information regarding the budget about a month ago. So we have all that information, and we will go through that information prior to our Thursday, March 11th meeting if you approve Thursday, March 11th as a time to discuss transition into the 21-22 school year.
So study session then is what we're talking about for March 11th, 4:30. Okay.
Yes. That work for everybody?
Yeah, how does that work for board members?
Before we commit to that, what date? I'm looking through my notes.
Thursday, Sandy, Thursday, March 11th.
What date are we meeting with the search consultants in March?
March 18th.
The 18th?
So, yeah,
okay.
So the following Thursday.
Very good. All right, then no conflict there. I'm good
Great.
with you then.
Very good. Well,
4:30.
Yeah, is that okay? Does that work for you, or?
Typically
whatever
it
you
does.
want.
I have a dental appointment that day for myself and my daughters, but I might look at changing that.
Or we can go later if that works for you, Carrie.
Later would be better for me on that day, just so I wouldn't have to change all those appointments.
What time would the board like?
So what would work for you, Carrie?
Probably like, 5:30.
Okay.
Wouldn't mean I'd
5:30
be
would be
done
great.
with the appointments usually get over within an hour, but then I need to get home.
Okay, Brenda, can you document that, please? 5:30 on March 11th.
Okay.
Does that work okay for Lynn and Sally, Sandy, 5:30 on the 11th? Okay, great.
Great. It'll be a good meeting, a very important meeting, and we'll get a lot done. I mean, we won't know everything about the budget, but we're getting some information on revenue streams coming in from the state and federal government. And we'll put all that together, and we'll have different models of revenue projections and so on, along with different scenarios regarding the organizational structure that we can have a conversation on. So that really concludes our meeting. It's 5:20.
It's 5:20. You're early.
Told you we'd get through it.
So impressed.
Thank you for tonight. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. Greatly appreciate each one of you and what you contribute to our school district and our community and everything that we've been through the last year. Without your steady support and leadership, it would have been a different day today, for sure. So if you would please maybe check out what the governor or Superintendent Reichdahl said about March 1, and maybe we can call each other and talk about that and see where we're at. But I think, quite frankly, upsetting the apple cart for 2 weeks would not be in our best interest. We've got people on our side in terms of our staff, and I would hate to herky jerk it at this point. But, whatever you think we should do, that's what we'll do. So have a good evening. Thank you very much.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hello,
Good night.
everyone. Thank you all.
Thanks, Diedrich.